Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Today's episode, I want to focus on the ridiculous claims of people like Antonio Brown and Whoopi Goldberg in their assertion, in Antonio's case, that racism doesn't exist, and in Whoopi's case, a denial that her good friend Mel Gibson is not racist. I'm going to get into their mindset as to why people like this choose to believe that particular way, despite of evidence to the contrary. But before I give my commentary, I want you to hear again Antonio's foolish comments and Whoopi's absurd comments about her friend Mel Gibson. And just take a listen.
Self-pity or be a mentality of being victimized. There's no racism. You can do what you want in America and the world. Only you can breathe for yourself, and only you can see with your own eyes. So it's up to what you want. I made $100 million in football contracts.
What, nigga?
I have a good
Nobody
question.
gonna fuck with us. What, nigga? We do what we want.
Question.
You don't have to have self-pity.
And I know he's not a racist. Oh, really? Yeah, I do. He may be a bonehead. Well, that language certainly sounds racist to me. Well, again, I have had a long friendship with Mel. I just want to clear
the point that I want to make out.
Let me finish this, please. Is that you can say he's being an bonehead, but I can't sit and say that he's a racist having spent time with him in my house with my kids. I can't say it. And so I really just need to say that. Okay. I don't like what he's done. Make no mistake. This is just... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before we go... Do you think he's anti-Semitic? I think he's an... When somebody says...
Okay, so you heard that absurdity. Now I want you to hear D.L. Hughley's commentary or comments towards Antonio Brown.
Understand that your view on race could be skewed based on your circumstances, on your individual outlook, but it also doesn't change that for the vast majority of people who are the same size as Antonio Brown, who are from the same place as Antonio Brown, the same speed, they ain't on the football field, they're most likely in jail or dead. You believe there's no racism in football because they gave you $100 million? Invest that $100 million, make it be worth $1 billion, and then try to buy an NFL team and see what they say to you. All the money you got in the world is not going to change the way they see you. And it is not unusual for a situation where slavery very much existed to take a prize buck and exalt him to the extent that he doesn't think he's like anyone else. That's a little note from the GED section. It's the D.L. Hughley Show. What? That was Leah, if your girl only knew. So Antonio Brown, I guess a couple of days ago, was talking about how racism doesn't exist. And he premised that on the fact that he got a $100 million contract. It's weird that Colin Kaepernick also got a $100 million contract, but he clearly sees racism. It's also weird that Oprah is worth billions of dollars and she sees racism. It's also weird that the NFL has committed to over $250 million over 10 years to eradicate racism. So I think that what is interesting is that Antonio Brown premises the idea on the fact that he was able to be successful, $100 million worth. But that's based on physicality. And even if you do not buy the premise that racism does exist, we do know that one time when they could freely own human beings, they prized the big, strong black dudes. They prized them, and they were often separated from the others and told how special they were. Contrast that with Antonio Brown, one of the most gifted receivers of the last 20 years, a Hall of Fame talent, precise runt runner. Very few people have exhibited or have the kind of talent he does. And at a very early age, particularly when you exhibit that level of talent, you are told, much like those people that the people could own human beings did before, you're told you're special, you're glorified, you're exalted. You're fed, you're a champion, you're a hero. Tom Brady is not coming to let you live with him because you don't possess a special talent. It is fairly common with I would venture to say if he's in his 30s, he probably exhibited a lot of those physical traits in his early teens, probably 10, 12 years old. And for 20 some years, he's been treated differently and well.
Okay, I want to add this about people who tend to deny racism, like Antonio Brown and Whoopi Goldberg, despite the very fact that we recently had an incident in Buffalo, New York, that was clearly racially motivated, where 10 people lost their lives, and we had about 14 others who were injured, and countless others there who will be traumatized for the rest of their lives. Now, people like Antonio and Whoopi tend to be mentally weak, and they're ill-equipped to deal with the reality that we are in a racist society. So what they do is that they go into denial slash defense mode by denying its existence, or somehow believing that a friend of theirs couldn't possibly be, in Whoopi's case. In Whoopi's case, what she fails to realize is that racist men tend to be and feel less threatened by women and children. They tend to respond to the bigger threat, or what they feel is more of a threat, and that would tend to be black men. That's why Mel Gibson told his then girlfriend that he hopes she gets raped by a pack of niggers. So therefore his threat obviously came from black men. In Antonio's case, once again we have a Negro who's foolishly believing that success equals non-racist society. So he's thinking that by him being paid a lot of money is some indicator that somehow racism doesn't exist. And also I'm sure what goes along with that is him being able to sleep with white women, or him sitting up there thinking that because of these white women find me desirable, that's the indication that we do not live in a racist society. And what he does not realize is that his appeal to white women or other women who happen to be non-black has more to do with his celebrity than the very fact that he's a famous athlete who is a multimillionaire. You try to tell people this, these athletes, these rappers, that these OnlyFans girls and these models wouldn't be interested in them if they were not a famous athlete who happens to be a multimillionaire. Try telling them that. They're going to accuse you of being a hater, of being jealous, trying to rain on their parade, because they can't accept the truth. Shows right there people who are out of touch with reality and just a lack of maturity. When you are mature, you see things for what they are, and you see people for what they are. When you're stuck in a very immature state, or you're underdeveloped mentally, you're going to behave as such, and you're going to spout foolish nonsense. That's where people like this are at. They're weak-minded. They just cannot deal with the reality of what reality is. So therefore, they deny it. And their denial is kind of like pushing it towards the back burner or hoping that it can just go away. And they would accuse you who bringing it up, of having a pity-patty party, of feeling sorry for yourself, of being a victim. But in reality, it's them. It's them who cannot really deal with the true circumstances of what our society is and what it's about, and how basically we need to heal. And by pushing things under the rug, by denying them, they're actually helping to perpetrate a systemic problem that has been going on for decades. And you can run but you can't hide. Eventually it's going to come up and bite you in the butt. Like it's done so many others. So this whole notion that no, it doesn't exist, when other people like Dio have stated, who are far more wealthier than they are, more famous, have felt it. But they have not felt it because they choose to believe a lie. They choose to be in denial. And they choose to basically to wallow in their self-pity. But they don't see that. They only see you, or people like me, who bring it up, as somehow being the instigators, or the people who are helping it to flourish or prolong it. When in fact, it is their type of mentality that chooses not to fight it, that chooses not to recognize it, that chooses not to call it out for what it is. It's this type of mentality that is prolonging it and giving it life. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.